Hello lovely people. I'm going to start a new video series called Useless Spec. I'm going to make a short format videos that would explore a specific spec of something to do with car audio that, in my opinion, is totally useless. So today's topic is going to be speaker power handling or RMS ratings. In my opinion, speaker power handling ratings in watts or RMS ratings is a totally useless spec that we should totally ignore, and I am ignoring that spec since I started car audio. And in this video, I'm going to try to explain to you why. First of all, what is a power handling rating of a speaker? What we need to understand is that it is a thermal rating. That means that if you have a speaker playing a sine tone of a specific power level, the voice coil heats up, the motor structure heats up, and the speaker needs to shed off that heat. Now, depending how much heat it can shed, how good is the cooling, how big is the coil, how much heat it can absorb, manufacturers put a specific power handling rating. Now, that rating does not mean that it's a brick wall. If a speaker is rated 100 watts, it doesn't mean that if you're going to give it 110 watts, it's going to blow straight away. If a speaker is rated 100 watts, you can blow it with 50 watts, or it can handle 200 watts, because thermal ratings do not translate into the actual use case scenario of speakers, that is, playing music on dynamics and on transients. The other thing that we need to understand is the actual power, how it is on different frequencies. So on music, the power distribution through frequencies follows a pink noise. That means that the most power the system delivers at the lowest frequencies, and the higher you go in frequency, the power goes down, and it goes down by 3 dB per octave. The kind of opposite thing of a pink noise is a white noise. In white noise, you have equal power distribution. That means that on every single frequency, we have the same amount of power. Now, if you played pink noise and white noise, you know what is the difference. White noise sounds much harsher at the higher frequencies because there's obviously much more power there. And pink noise, it's more mellow and you have much more sound coming from your subwoofers or the mid-bass drivers. So since music is more like pink noise, that means on a specific song, you will have much more energy or power concentrated in the lower frequencies compared to the highest frequencies. On a typical system with a normal tune where you have something tuned to a house curve, probably 95 to 99% of the whole power consumption is going to be your subwoofer in the back. Your tweeter, you won't be able to measure how much tweeter consumes power on music. And this is where the power ratings come into play, and I don't like it. Probably you've seen some posts online that somebody comments under a specific tweeter or a mid-range, oh, this tweeter can handle only 10 or only 15 watts. I'm feeding 100 watts into my tweeters. No, you have 100 watts capable amplifier that is producing maybe half a watt into your tweeters. Power ratings for a tweeter is absolutely useless. Mid-range, exactly the same. Mid-bass, to me personally, it is totally useless. For some, it might have something. I am talking about SQ systems, not SPL, when you're pushing the drivers and amplifiers to the absolute limits. In an SQ system, whenever you're setting up your crossovers, you're trying to manage the distortion of the driver. That means you're trying to kind of protect it from bottoming out. In an SQ system with a correctly set up crossovers and drivers, if you keep increasing the power to whichever driver, you will blow it mechanically first rather than thermally. In an SQ system, we do not set crossovers as high as possible to feed more power. We want our drivers to play as low as possible while the distortion is managed. Do yourself an experiment. Take a multimeter, AC multimeter, wire it to your mid-ranges, tweeters or mid-basses, play some music and see what kind of voltage you're gonna see. If you have a clamp meter, disable your subwoofer, clamp your main power wire that is going into your amplifiers, DSPs and everything, crank up the music, make sure that only the mid-bass, mid-range and tweeter is playing, and see how much amperage the whole system is gonna draw, and you will be so surprised. A much more important spec for a speaker is the sensitivity. Normally, when we're talking about front end, typically you will have a sensitivity of around 90 dB. Some speakers are more sensitive, some less sensitive. Since we have these distances in a car much smaller, we have probably less than 1 meter to the driver's side drivers and a bit more than 1 meter to the passenger side drivers. Now, sensitivity, if we have 90 dB at 1 watt and 1 meter, that means that with a single watt of power, we are getting 90 decibels out of one speaker. If we have 2 speakers and each of them gets 1 watt, that's 96 decibels. If you listen to 96 decibels of music, that is loud, and that is on a single watt. In a theoretical scenario where we have our 3-way front end, all drivers are 90 dB sensitive, we are feeding them 1 watt to each driver, we have 6 watts, and our system is playing at 96 decibels. Now really think about it. A tweeter will handle 10, 15, 20 watts. You need 1 watt to play much louder than your typical SQ levels. I am not talking about SPL when you're trying to get 120 decibels out of your front end. Then, yes, picture changes, it's a little bit different. But for SQ, you really don't need any power, and your drivers don't have to handle power. A lot of people say, when we're talking about something like micro precision drivers, which are like proper SQ drivers, they handle, I don't know, 40, 50, maybe 60 watts. And a lot of people say, oh, they cannot handle any power. You do not need that. They are playing up to 100 decibels with literally 5 watts. Why do you need them to handle 100 watts? If you have mid-bass driver that in a 3-way will take the most power, and let's say a typical mid-bass will handle 100 watts of power. If you're gonna play that mid-bass full range, let's say, and you're gonna feed it those 100 watts, it's gonna be a lot of power. If you're gonna apply a high pass of about 70 or 80 hertz, like you typically do for mid-bass drivers in the doors, from those 100 watts, you will get left maybe 20, even if you fully crank up your amplifier. A lot of people say, I feed like 200, 300 watts into my mid-bass drivers and they take it all. No, you don't, my friend. What you have, again, is a 200 or 300 watt capable amplifier that is capable of delivering that power into a static 4 ohm resistor at 14.4 volts, playing a sine tone. That is what you have. When you have a speaker that you're playing close to a fess where the impedance rises, it's not a 4 ohm speaker. Impedance is a curve, it's not a number. When you are playing music, when you have a high pass filter applied, when you're using some EQ, that 200 watt capable amplifier into your actual door speakers, probably delivering 10 or 20 watts max. Again, if you don't believe it, take a voltmeter, take a clamp and measure on music. Now, things change totally different if we're talking about SPL subwoofers when you burp them on a sine tone. Then, yes, it's a totally different picture. But the thing we need to remember, even in that case, a speaker power handling, again, is not a brick wall. You will hear that, oh, my subwoofer is rated 1000 watts and I feed 3K daily. Yes, because again, on music, it's not a single sine tone. You have bass notes that are coming or going. On transients, the coil, the motor can absorb the heat and then it releases the heat by cooling down when the cone is moving. So on transients, Subwoofer will take much more power than it's rated because it can dissipate that heat. Exactly the same with your mid-ranges, tweeters, and mid-basses. If you crank it up, if you feed it much more power, the coil will not overheat instantly because music is not a sine tone, it's dynamic. When you have 5-second gap between different songs, the coil cools down. Speaker power handling is a totally and absolutely useless spec. Now, some people are looking for drivers based on power handling. This driver can handle 200 watts. That's why it's better than this one that can handle 100 watts. Why? Your speaker will see 20 watts. What is the difference if it can handle more or less? I literally cannot comprehend it. If I could give an analogy, it would be, I don't know, top speed of a car. If you're buying a car for daily commute or, I don't know, driving anywhere, what difference does it make to you, the top speed of your car? You will never drive it at top speed. If you will, maybe it's gonna be once or twice in your lifetime. So it's like, why are you looking at the spec that does not matter? And again, I am talking about SQ systems, mainly about front-end speakers, tweeters, mid-ranges, mid-basses, and I'm not talking about SPL subwoofer burps. That is a totally different thing. So if you want to argue with me, if you think that I'm wrong, go in the comments and feel free to write whatever you want. I will be making these videos every Thursday, so stay tuned. And next time we're going to discuss another topic. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.